YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark, and today's been a pretty exciting day for the Marvel Rivals community. We just got a bunch of leaks this morning, and then before I could even get to make a video about those leaks, they actually just went ahead and officially dropped the trailer. Now, I don't know if they planned on dropping this trailer or if it was because they just, some of the leaks were already put out there, so they just got on top of it and said, hey, let's do it, or what the deal is. And really, I'm starting to wonder if half these leaks are even really leaks or if they're just kind of drip feeding stuff to people to keep the excitement going and stuff like that for the next season, or what the case is. But, that's neither here nor there. But what I do want to talk about is the actual trailer itself. Now, I'm going to put this trailer up over the gameplay in the background just so you guys can kind of see it, as we go along. We talk about it if you haven't already seen it yourself. But I would recommend going to their actual page and watching that trailer with the audio on and everything like that. This is just more of a reference. But one of the things I want to talk about, one of the first things I want to talk about is the fact that the theme is definitely going to be the Hellfire Gala. This isn't just going to be like a singular like event or anything like that, like a lot of people probably thought that we were getting. This is actually going to be probably what it seems like to be like the theme of the actual season. And what I find really interesting is that if you look at a lot of the different costumes and stuff, because I've done a few different videos, if you want to go back and look at those in regards to different outfits and stuff like that we could have potentially gotten for the Hellfire Gala. Because the thing is that they did like 3 of these before. I think, there was like the fall of the X-Men or whatever, and they kind of did a storyline where something happened to Krakoa. I can't remember exactly what it was. I haven't, followed the X-Men as closely in the last couple of years, but initially they had like 3 different Hellfire Galas, and, every time there were just a ridiculous amount of people that showed up. And like I've said before in previous videos, the Hellfire Galas, they're massive events for, like the X-Men themselves, but a lot of different people come. You have like Captain America, Iron Man, just a lot of like really big names, Avengers and stuff like that in the Marvel, community and stuff that end up coming to these events and stuff, and they all come and they all have their own outfits and stuff, except with the exception of Iron Man. I don't know if he eventually had some type of outfit, but the only time I ever saw Iron Man in the Hellfire Gala, he actually was just wearing his actual Iron Man suit without the helmet on and like a pair of shades, which honestly I wouldn't mind that for an Iron Man skin. I think that would actually be pretty cool. But back to the point though, like I said, I had done a video where I showed a lot of the different skins, and I'm noticing from the trailer that a lot of these skins, they're actually showing. For example, they have Wolverine in the suit that he wore to the Hellfire Gala. Scarlet Witch looks pretty similar to her outfit. I noticed that they had the Black Widow skin from her Hellfire Gala, and there's obviously a couple of other ones you guys can point it out too. I've only had a chance to watch the trailer probably like maybe 2 or 3 times and back to back really quick, so I may have missed a few things. Nonetheless, though, there's a couple of people that have on different outfits than what they wore at the Hellfire Gala. Just a point of reference to people that I noticed, like Magic and Psylocke, for example, they have very like their classic like X-Men kind of like outfits. And the thing is like, it's the comics. So like, they wear whatever they wear. Sometimes Magic has her like outfit like she does in the game. In the Hellfire Gala, she wore another outfit that was really cool. It had like this all black kind of like demon kind of look thing to it. Psylocke wore like at one point like an all black kind of like dress with like a kind of like a ninja type, face mask kind of like type of deal they wear. And so the thing is that they may release multiple different skins that people could have worn throughout their time, like, years at the Hellfire Gala, or, just in general and stuff like that. I mean, really, I just feel like having this as an excuse, which I have zero problem with, an excuse to just kind of pop out skins left and right for each character. Because like I said, they had these events over the span of like 3 years, right? It wasn't like it was just kind of like a one-off thing or anything. So, but I also noticed too that there's a lot of characters that they showed that were already wearing skins that they already have in the game, like Magneto, which it's not too far off from his skin. I did think that initially when I first saw it that it was kind of similar to the skin that he did wear at the Hellfire Gala. It's a little more colorful, I believe, but still. And then you have like Storm, Loki. There's a few people that I just noticed that are wearing skins that they just recently released in the game that kind of like make sense that they would have released those. So but that's that though. And the biggest part of the trailer that we're realizing, obviously you would have realized this by now from the trailer, but I do think it's confirmed now that we are getting Emma Frost and Ultron. Now with Ultron, I was kind of wondering and worried, like, what would be the point and the relevance of him coming in. But it seems like, that what they're doing is that, because the new map that we're getting is going to be Krakoa, which if you don't know, if you haven't heard from other videos and stuff, if you're a first time listener, Krakoa is actually a sentient island that the mutants all like eventually ended up living on. Initially, they were kind of beefing with the island, and they had to, some of the X-Men got trapped, and they had to. Professor X sent in a group of X-Men, I believe it was like Wolverine, Storm, and Colossus and stuff, and they sent them in. They freed those mutants, but you fast forward to current day in the Marvel universe, or more of the current timeline, and they actually live on Krakoa. And that's where they made kind of like their little personal country or state or whatever you want to call it, is that island. So that plays a massive part in the X-Men like history and lore and stuff. And especially if you're going to have the Hellfire Gala, you would have to do it on Krakoa, because that's where, it happens at, I'm pretty sure all 3 times until, you had the fall of Krakoa or the X-Men or whichever storyline it was. Nonetheless, though, like I said, you can see from the trailer that we have Emma Frost, which I love her model, by the way. I really think Marvel Rivals does a great job with their character models and just making them, look true to the game, but also kind of putting their own like touch on them and making them very interesting and stuff. And then we have what seems like Ultron coming and attacking Krakoa and everyone having to fight against Ultron. Now, this obviously differs greatly from Ultron's origins and stuff in the comic books, but that's the cool thing about the multiversal or whatever I forget exactly what they call it in Marvel Rivals, like how they're they mix all that kind of stuff up, but everyone can kind of have their own thing going on. So the way that we had Dracula and how he was taking over timelines and stuff like that, or multiverses or whatever you want to call them, and everybody was kind of fighting against him and stuff like that. Now it seems like we have Ultron attacking it, and I also think Ultron's, his model just looks amazing from what we're seeing in the trailer. I'm assuming that these are going to look like what they look like in the trailer, because that's usually how they've done the trailers before. They haven't really differed very much. So, like I said, it definitely seems like we're getting Ultron and Emma Frost. Now, which ones we're getting first, we can't really say because they haven't released that information yet. Now, tomorrow, it's supposed to be Tim the Tatman and a few other prominent streamers are supposed to be doing Marvel Rivals sponsored like streams or whatever. And the last time they did that was when we had like the reveal of the characters, and they played with them a little bit, and we got to see like some of their abilities, or all their abilities, whatever you want to say, and maybe even like the skins that they'll get, because usually when they release a new character, they have like their primary skins, and then the 2 that are just kind of like the basic whatevers that you can get for them, and then we have like the main bundle that comes with them, kind of like with the Thing you had trench coat Thing, and then with Johnny Storm we had I forget what it's called, but the one where he gets trapped in the other world or whatever and left to die, all that kind of stuff. You gotta forgive me. I just woke up, had a late night, and had to wake up early and take the kids to school. So forgive me. My brain is my Red Bull hasn't fully kicked in yet, if you know what I mean. Nonetheless, though, you guys are always welcome to drop that stuff in the comments for other people and stuff, because I can't go back after I've made the video. Nonetheless, though, the point that I'm making is that tomorrow we'll probably get to be able to see some gameplay with them and get to understand a little bit more details and stuff. It seems like I said that, toward the end of this week now, they're getting to the point where they're rolling out more and more details, because, I woke up this morning and it was around like 8 or 9 after I dropped the kids off. When I woke back up, and we had a bunch of leaks. We had like the, Emma Frost, her character model leak and stuff like that. We had like the little page that you get when you first log on, like when we had the new season, and the, the devs were explaining kind of like overall the season and what, led them to, get to the point that they're at now and why they wanted to go in that direction. That had kind of leaked, which let us know that we were getting Emma Frost and more than likely Ultron. They didn't say Ultron in that, but they definitely had hinted toward Ultron when they said the mechanical menace. Is like, who else would we really be talking about at this point? So, we had that. But like I said, though, we don't know which characters we're getting first, but I will go ahead and just take an educated guess and say that more than likely we'll be getting Emma Frost first, simply because having the Hellfire Gala and having her be like the lead in the trailer, and all of that kind of having to do with her, and not getting her first just kind of seems weird to me. But then again, I also think it's kind of weird that we had a whole season about Blade and we're not getting Blade. We could be wrong on this stuff. Maybe they've changed their mind and they're like, hey, you know what? Instead of just doing one character every half of a season, which would be 2 characters overall, maybe we're going to change it up and add another one in. But I highly doubt it at this point. I'm thinking maybe they had Blade ready to go. They were interested in him, but then they said, hey, you know what? Maybe we think there's more hype around Emma Frost and Ultron. And I know for the Blade fans out there, I know there's a lot of people that were, I'm ready for Blade. But, we don't have any control over what the what the devs decide to do. We also don't have their analytics and their information. But I would say honestly, from just me being a content creator who primarily talks about this kind of stuff, if I had to wager and I go through my comment sections, it's primarily people that are excited for Ultron and Emma Frost. I mean, I have some dedicated people in my comments that every time I make a video, where's Emma Frost? I really want Emma Frost. You know what I'm saying? And I have to be honest that from what was leaked with her kit. Now, the thing is that I can't say that the individual that leaked the kit, I don't know how reliable they are, because this was just kind of like a random thing that appeared on the internet. And a lot of people ran with it, but they were saying that Emma Frost, her abilities would be very similar to like a cloak and dagger, where she had like a regular form with regular abilities that were not regular abilities, but abilities that were specific to her human form. Where she could do like telepathic stuff, and then more like a diamond form where she had abilities that were specific to her diamond form. Like I said, that's very similar to, like, if you think about it, a cloak and dagger, where you have dagger that does the healing and can do a little bit of damage, but it's completely different from cloak, where cloak can blind you, and he has a much higher damage output, and can go invisible, et cetera, right? So that's what they were saying in regards to Emma Frost. Now, do we know if that's actually her abilities or not? No, but I would say that's kind of like a good starting place, maybe, a lot of times with a lot of this stuff, because a lot of this stuff that gets leaked early on and then people talk about, it tends to end up kind of panning out and being very similar to what it is that we get, if not like identical to it. So once again, it's just not to get your hopes up or anything in that regard, but it's definitely something to kind of some type of basis, I feel like, right? A little bit of a foundation for you to kind of go off of. Nonetheless, though, like I said, getting Ultron is supposed to be a healer. Sorry, I don't call them duelist and vanguards and all that stuff. It's tank, DPS, and healer to me. Nonetheless, he's supposed to be a healer. And, I go back and forth. I play a little bit of all the characters, but I will have to say that I spend probably 90% of my time as a healer, just because I don't really trust most of you all to heal the way that I know that I'm going to heal. I usually end up with twice the amount of healers or healing as the enemy team. So that's what I primarily focus on, but I'm really interested to see what they'll do with his abilities. Now, his abilities were leaked a while back as well. I put that in my previous video, with the whole page with his abilities and stuff like that. And a lot of his stuff had to do with having different, like, little drones, little Ultron clones that did stuff for you. Like you could put one specifically on a teammate, kind of like, if you think about it, like Luna Snow, where she can put a snowflake over someone and then continue to heal someone else. They said that drone would focus mostly on healing an individual, but it would also healing when it was around them, though. So that could be really interesting. We know that he'll have the ability to fly. We just don't know if his ability to fly is going to be like a permanent thing, like Iron Man and Johnny Storm and Storm herself, or if it's going to be kind of like a temporary ability that he has where he flies and then comes back down to the ground, because it was leaked that his passive will be slow fall. So I don't really know what the point of that would be if he can just fly, but who knows? Maybe he has the option to fly or stay on the ground, maybe like more of a hybrid character, because we really don't have one of those in regards to flyers. With flyers, it's usually just they're either flyers or they're not. So if you have one that's kind of got an in-between, or maybe he just has a higher cooldown on his flying, whatever the case is. But I do think it's interesting, though. But you guys let me know in the comments, though, from the trailer, from the stuff that's been leaked, are you guys excited? Are you not? I know there's one person in my comments particularly, not going to say names, but is extremely excited for Emma Frost. They have been asking for Emma Frost for about a month straight now. So, like I said, I'm excited. I think they're doing a great job. As someone that's like a legitimate comic fan and has been since the days before it was cool to be a comic book fan, I think they're doing an excellent job, and I'm really excited for the new season. And also, too, I want to add that I don't know if you guys saw it from the trailer or not, or heard it anywhere else, but the new season will be starting on the 11th, so we're not too far out, right? And we're getting to that point where they're slowly building up to everything and letting us know. And throughout the next coming days, we'll be definitely getting a lot more information. So, but that's all I have for this video in particular. Just kind of want to get that out for you guys, let you know, for the people that, are out school work, all that kind of stuff, that, just kind of getting the stuff in tidbits and stuff like that. So nonetheless, though, that's all I got for you guys. Any thoughts or concerns, opinions, whatever, put them in the or predictions, put them in the comment section. I love to hear from you guys. I try to reply to everybody that I can. So just let me know what you think. Like I said, I love to hear your thoughts and opinions on everything. So, but I'm Dark and I'm out, though. I'll catch you guys on the next one.